All right, we will be recording this, and this recording will be available on Zoom tonight, but then it'll be added to our website by tomorrow afternoon. So, and if you're interested in any of our previous recordings, including the session we did a few weeks ago on the craft grow infuser and transportation deficiency notices, just to be able to get some insights, like even if you haven't applied, but you might apply in the future, that's going to give you a lot of good insight, as will tonight's session, on things I want to make sure I do in my future application. So that is available on our website as well. I sent that in an email earlier, but some of you might be new to us. So I'll be putting that in another email between this evening and tomorrow morning. We will be having a follow-up session to tonight's session. And one person registered already. How did you do that? We will be having a follow-up session a week from now. So same time, next Tuesday. It's a Q&A session where we just answering questions, because basically we know that you're going to take everything that you learned tonight, apply it to your application, and this is going to give you an opportunity to then follow up with questions, because we know that there are going to be a lot of follow-up questions. So this will be an opportunity for you to get those questions answered between Tuesday and next Friday, which is when your deadline is. What am I forgetting? I got the Q&A session. I talked about the videos. I feel like I'm forgetting something.
I'll add one thing. May I add one thing?
Yes, please.
That in case you didn't come to the last session, I start off with a short lecture where I don't take questions, and I run through the information, because it's a lot of information and I want to make sure that I cover the key points. And then after that, I do a short few-minute break, and then I come back and we do Q&A.
And for the Q&A, how we normally run things, and it worked very well last time, I will moderate the Q&A. So if you have questions, use the Q&A box and not the chat, because the Q&A, we can very easily make sure we don't miss anything. And we clear all of the questions in the queue. We make sure that all of the questions are answered before we leave by the end of the night. Stuff can get lost in the chat, so I don't want you to use the chat. And on that note, I still can't remember what it was that I was thinking about adding. So on that note, I am going to mute myself, shut off my camera, and turn things over to SL.
Okay, thank you, Trisha. All right, everyone, let me go ahead and get us started here. I'm going to pull up my presentation. All right, so welcome everyone. I am excited to be here with you tonight. If you were with me and Trisha a few weeks ago, I'm excited to be here with you again. We, after looking at the information a little bit more closely between the two agencies, we thought it would be a good idea to do one more session that is specific to the deficiency notice process that is going on right now, because there are some slight nuances between how the agencies are handling the deficiency notices and how they put together the instructions and the guidance. So just to kind of give you a brief overview, I'm going to start off with part one with a short lecture, giving you all of the foundational information. If you were at the first session, some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, just enough to make sure that we all have that foundational knowledge base to understand the full context of this area of law. I'll do a brief introduction of myself for those of you who are new to me. I'll do a brief introduction to the Social Equity Cannabis Initiative at UIC, and I'll then jump right into the materials. So me, SL Owens, I'm a Chicago native. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in the Austin neighborhood, which I don't live far from now. I am an experienced business and regulatory attorney. I spent my time practicing in private practice before coming to public interest law at UIC. I spent my time practicing across 3 states. I practiced in Colorado, which is very beneficial to the work that I do here now. with that being one of the oldest legalized markets in the country. I practiced in Wisconsin, which is also beneficial with it being one of the most punitive cannabis markets in the country, and as well as here in Illinois, my home state. I've worked with small business owners and entrepreneurs, very local brands, neighborhood shops. I've also worked with national and international businesses doing regulatory law in the franchise distribution and supply chain space. That is how I cut my teeth in the regulatory space before transitioning into cannabis, which was a natural fit because cannabis, like franchising, is a very complex set of regulations that requires understanding how different state agencies are working with each other alongside local agencies. So now that I am out of private practice in the public sector, I am working over at UIC Law School. I work with the Community Enterprise and Solidarity Economy Clinic. It is located at UIC John Marshall Law School. We represent worker-owned cooperative businesses, nonprofits, small business owners. Very socially conscious and socially aware brands and businesses are really our sweet spot for clients. Many of our clients promote equity and democratic decision making, and they build sustainability in their communities, which is why I'm super excited to be in this clinic doing this work. So part of my work is teaching law students how to be business lawyers, and which I love because I love mentorship. And then the other part of my work is leading the Social Equity Cannabis Initiative. But before I move to that, I want to let you all know that we do accept clients twice a year in the clinic because I get this question a lot. We are typically full after we have our initial intake process at the beginning of each semester. So we do accept applications all year, but we only take new clients at the beginning of each semester. So I encourage you all to submit applications to the clinic. But just be aware that like this semester, it's February, we're already filled to capacity, so we're not taking new clients. Once in a while, we get openings in the semester when, things might open up, but it's very rare. So the Social Equity Cannabis Initiative, this is a project that was designed with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to help reduce legal barriers of entry into the cannabis market here in Illinois. I am particularly fond of this project, having grown up in the Austin neighborhood and having witnessed firsthand and survived and overcame the war on drugs in my own community. So I'm just thrilled to be back home and able to offer these services. We offer services in 3 ways: workshops and materials on cannabis related topics. So I'll be giving you some materials tonight, some helpful worksheets, hopefully, that you'll find helpful. We do brief advising through email only, not phone call, not in person, not virtual, just email, which I will drop the link for you to be able to take advantage of. And we also do legal representation, again, through our clinic application process. All right, so you saw this if you were here last time, but if you are new, I want to start by giving you just a quick overview of the scope of what we're doing today. So the goal here is to provide you with legal context, legal framework, and legal strategies so that you can be equipped to respond to these deficiency notices like an attorney. So my whole goal this evening is to help you think like a lawyer, write like a lawyer, and organize information like a lawyer. Just to give you the context though, because I think that's important to understanding how to think like a lawyer. The context of deficiency notices is very layered. So you have the deficiency notice process itself, which is happening at the local agencies, the Illinois Department of Agriculture and IDFPR. Then you have the court process, which is also involved in this in the sense that if you are feeling like your rights are not being honored at the agency level, you do have the right to exhaust your remedies in court. So we all see that playing out, particularly in this process right now. Then you also have the legislative process, which is, where the laws get made. So oftentimes the agencies are just attempting to follow the law that's in the legislation. And oftentimes where we really need to see change is in the legislative process, particularly because in the legal system, courts are very wary to change laws through the judicial process because of our American system, which really relies on using the different branches of government in their core functions. And then in this particular area of law, we also have the advocacy and lobbying process. So I'm showing you this big picture because there's no way to be involved in the licensing process without keeping your eye on each one of these areas that you can use and pursue to self-advocate for yourself and to help push the legal system in your favor to access and uphold your rights. So the legal framework of deficiency notices. So we have the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, right? And this is what a lawyer would do when preparing for these deficiency notices. We would kind of, before we got up on the granular information, we would start by looking at this very big picture information to make sure we understand where are all our avenues and where are all of our tool kits that we can use. So we have the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. We all are familiar with that, I'm sure by now. But what you may not be as familiar with is some of these other areas of law that are also relevant to this process. So you have administrative law, which is law that governs how agencies operate and conduct business with constituents. And then you have due process law, which is a law that governs your right to have a fair process when dealing with agencies. And by fair, that means that agencies aren't just making up things as they go and that they are actually putting thought and reasonableness in the procedures, the instructions, and that they're following what they say that they're going to do, and that they're doing those things equally with everyone, which is some of the issues that we've already seen in this process. Then we have the Freedom of Information Act, which are sometimes called sunshine laws, and that is our right to request information from state agencies. And then we have the Illinois State Records Act here in Illinois, which is an act that lets agencies know, hey, any records that you have, those are not your personal records. Those records belong to us, the citizens of Illinois. And so you have a right to the state records. And it is one way you can begin to receive information about this process when you feel like you're being left in the dark. Then we have equal protection law, and we have the Illinois Special Legislation Clause. And those laws are very similar in the sense that they have to do with making sure that laws are equally and uniformly applied and not applied in a discriminatory fashion. I'm bringing this up because I believe sometimes when you are in the granular part of this deficiency notice, you may forget that this isn't the end all be all necessarily of what your rights are. You still have, just because an agency tells you or instructs you a certain way doesn't mean, oh, well, I guess that's it. That's what the agency says. That agency has to make sure what they're saying is consistent with due process law, is consistent with the equal protection law, is consistent with FOIA and the state records law, is consistent with the CRTA, and it's consistent with administrative law. So let's move into the meat and potatoes here. Just as some preliminary guidance to help you feel confident in the process. Some of this might sound like, oh, of course, but when you're in a fast-paced process, it's easy to lose sight of some of these basic things. So one, you want to make sure you organize and analyze the information early enough to submit questions to the agency. I believe their cutoff for receiving questions is next Tuesday. I'll double check that, but make sure that you are analyzing and organizing early enough so that you can submit questions as you go. Plan to submit your response at least 12 to 24 hours because technology, it happens. Take an inventory and spread the work out. If you're working on a team, this is the time to make sure anybody that has two hands and is able is holding a bucket, because this is a lot of work that requires a lot of detail and a lot of analysis. And as you'll see when we get to the toolkit, the more people you have involved with focusing on just one particular exhibit, for example, the more you increase your chances of being detail oriented and getting all of the points that you need to get. Prepare to use the FOIA process to request information. So if you're not getting your score sheet, or there are certain instructions or things that you feel like are missing, if just sending an email isn't getting it done, put it in through the FOIA officer. So many aspects of the licensing application process, as you all know, is under litigation and under legislation, unfortunately. So I encourage you to stay the course, be kind to yourself, don't give up now. Don't say, oh, I don't have a perfect score, or, oh, I don't know if I'm going to reach the new cutoff score that may happen. No, try to fight for this all the way to the end, because at the end of the day, courts are likely going to have some of the final say, and legislators are likely going to also have some of the final say. So don't count yourself out before those other legal systems may do things to help work in your favor. All right, so give me a second now to drop a link to you to the toolkit. I'm going to give you guys a minute to click this link and get access to the documents. Please let us know in the chat box if you are not able to open the link. It should be opened up for everyone. It contains all of the documents that we're going to use tonight, and there are two in particular. Is my screen working now? Sometimes when I take video off and back on.
Yeah, it was, yeah, you were fine.
Okay.
But the presentation part was frozen.
Okay.
So now I have a question, because I clicked on the link myself this time.
Okay.
So are we supposed to log in, or does it require a login?
It should not. So if it says that, let me change the settings.
Okay.
To make sure you guys are good, because you shouldn't have to log in. This is my second time using this, so bear with me. But you should be able to open it. Hold on. Oh, I see. I saw what I did there. Try it now. It should allow people with the link to view and download.
Wait a minute, let me see some messages in the chat.
Yep.
Excuse me. So let me click the link again.
Yeah, try it now.
Okay, we're all good.
Sweet.
Yep, it goes straight to the files.
Let me tell you, I came here with my good energy and my namaste today. I've been running into some tech issues. So perfect. All right, so you guys are all in. Wonderful. And you're going to see quite a few documents in here, because what I did was I put this folder together as if I were working on a case file, what my case file would look like. you know, and so I wanted to make sure you all had all the information in one place. So I'm going to share my screen again, and I will, let me see here. Hold on. Can you put the link back up in the chat? Yes. All right. So you are able to download the documents. Okay. Let's get our screen share. You don't need to do anything with the documents yet. I just wanted to make sure you had them because we're about to start looking at them in a second. All right. So let's. All right. So the first tip, some of you might remember, but the Excel sheet is going to look a lot different this time because of the different agencies. But the first tip is to organize all of the information like a lawyer. So what I mean by that is take all of the key information and put it into one Excel sheet so that you are not clicking all over the place looking for things, because that's how you easily miss steps, miss instructions, miss legal citations, and things like that. So what you'll see if you open up that Excel sheet right now, you will see that I have combined the general and exhibit specific instructions, the legal citations that are applicable to each exhibit, and the application instructions all into one document, which is even more helpful for you this time than it was if you were a part of the Department of Agricultural deficiency process a few weeks ago, because at least the DOA gave us some charts. You know, they gave us some charts that kind of showed us their blueprint. Here, I had to build that blueprint from scratch because they did not provide you all with charts that are helpful. Instead, they gave you these long emails with a running list of information. So I want you to open up that Excel sheet and you'll see two tabs on there. One will say instructions chart. The other will say project status chart. So I want everybody to go ahead and open those up. Hold on, let me check the settings again. Some of you, looks like you might be having a hard time opening up the doc. Trisha, were you able to download?
I'm talking and my mic is off.
That's
I
okay.
had the document open as a preview, but it's, let me see, is the option to download.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any options to download.
Okay. Let me check here. All right, it's showing that you guys should be able to download. Hold on.
Now, one of the comments, the open it and download button is at the top right. Yeah, when I clicked on the open, I don't see a download button. I just see
Okay, so some folks have been able to download. If you were able to download, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say if folks have been able to, I wanted somebody to say they have, because the settings on my end say that you guys can download.
So someone said you have to log in to download.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that. Hold on. Yeah, you shouldn't have to do that. It doesn't say on here that you got to do that. Last time we didn't have to do that, did we?
Not that I recall. I don't remember anybody. I know there are a couple of people who were on the last one.
Yeah.
Anybody who used the docs from before, did you have to create an account? Nope, they didn't have to.
Yeah, they didn't have to. Hold on, let me just log out and log back in.
Okay.
You know, different things happen here, chat.
Yeah, I was about to start calling names. One of these people who commented, no, that was the person I was gonna call out because I know they downloaded the document.
Yeah, you should be able to, because I got notifications of everybody downloading last time. So just give me a second here to see what's going on. Okay, we got everybody on the share. People with the link can view and download. Says the content is publicly available to anybody with the link. Oh, resend the link. Let's see. Let's try it.
Okay, let's click on that.
Looks like it's the same link. I logged out and went back in and saved the settings again, you know, just to see if that does it. But
yeah, it's not
and it says allow download on here, and I have that clicked. Allow users with the share link to download. Yes. I have no password set on here. All right, I just saved it again.
Okay, I want to refresh.
Yep, we're working through it. You still can't get it either, Trisha?
It's just still showing it to me. Okay. And let me, I close it all together. Let me click on the link again. Actually, let me copy and paste this into a different browser and see what happens.
Okay, because if not, what I could do is I could download everything and send it to you, you know.
Right. And I could put it up, but then I'll have to make sure that because I know that they're gonna go, we need them to go away by a certain time so we can work that out too. So let me open a different browser and see if that might be the issue. Nope.
No.
Same results.
Okay, I'm gonna add you as a folder owner on here.
Okay.
Yes, we've been having Outlook and box issues for the last couple of weeks.
So maybe somebody changed something in the last couple of weeks because we did not have any issues last time. It worked.
We didn't. But you know, it happens. That's why I keep my patience for this stuff, because it happens. So let me get back to you. All right, I just had to go get your email address because I don't know by heart. All right. I just added you as a editor to this folder.
Okay, so then I'll have to log in then.
Okay, someone said they were able to.
And I bet you that person was logged in. Like, But last time it didn't require that. It didn't require a login.
It didn't. So that's why I'm trying to see what's going on here. And the other thing I'm going to do is just check one more setting on here. Because so they have been in here possibly. Okay. Now I then changed every single setting in every area. And when you get in here, you should be able to see that it says the public is accessible to this. And it shows you as pending as coming in as a collaborator on the folder, Trisha.
Let me.
So you might have to go to your email to accept. Oh, so someone on here says it's working for me. I'm not logged in. Someone else said I was able to download it. So maybe folks need to refresh their browser or close it and open it back up, because I'm starting to get comments that folks are reading and downloading it without issue.
Okay. So maybe let me open a new browser window.
It said that it just takes a minute to download, like, you know, depending on your internet. Okay, folks say they see the down. See, we're rocking and rolling.
Okay, then I'll figure out my issues on my own. I don't have an application, so
I'm not. You don't have...
No, I'm saying I don't have a dispensary.
Oh, right. Okay, so I can keep going.
Yeah, so go ahead and keep going.
Okay, I put the link in there again for everybody. Okay, hey, you guys, this is life in the pandemic, all right? So we all have to just be patient, kind. You see, I started this saying be kind to yourself. So Trisha is going to keep working on her end to find alternative ways to share with folks that are having issues. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep pushing forward through some of this because it is a lot of information. All right.
I'm going to chime in for a second.
So go ahead.
If you highlight a document that you want, when you mouse over it, all the way to the right will be a download button available. That's where you can download from. I don't know if I wasn't seeing that before or if it wasn't there.
Okay.
So on each end of, you won't see it until you mouse over the document. So on each individual document, you have to mouse over it. It'll be highlighted. Matter of fact, can I share my screen for a second?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, do you see the folder?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I got two screens open, so I'm like, I can't tell. All right, so once you see how that's blue, and then that three dots show up. If I go down here, the three dots show up on each subsequent document. So you click on the document and click on those three dots, then you have the download button here, and you can download the document, which I am about to do.
Sweet.
So, okay, let me stop sharing and turn it back over.
Okay, so it's working. I'm like, look now, what is happening here?
Right, well, we're gonna work out.
All right, cool. No, but see, I like working with you, Trisha, because you keep your hat on, you don't get flustered, because these things happen.
Always, that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. Things always happen, you gotta be ready.
All right, so let's jump into this very detailed chart. So, do you see the Excel sheet now, Trisha, on my screen? Perfect. Yes, awesome. All right, so the first sheet is just some worksheet information that kind of mostly gives you the disclaimers, which is that this is not legal advice. It cannot replace the advice of receiving an attorney-counsel relationship. This is to help you self-represent and self-advocate, as well as work with your vendors in a more confident way. So let's hop into the instructions page. You will notice that I was a lot more, if you were at the first one, I'm a little bit more detailed here because the instructions from this agency to me were not as straightforward and clear. So one of the things that I think you should do first is go to this project instructions chart. And if you are working on a team, go ahead and assign who's going to be responsible for these various parts, because there are some very tedious parts to this. So for example, they want you all to submit a survey for each application that you put in. Go and submit that survey right away. I would not wait for that part. I would do that as soon as I possibly could. The second thing, like, so don't miss in, like, it's buried in the email. They want you to do it for every single application. In that survey, they ask you a bunch of things about which exhibits are you going to submit supplemental responses for example. So make sure you answer that in a very detailed way. Don't miss any of the answers because it might disqualify you from them looking at your supplemental response. The second thing on there is this idea of how they want files formatted. They are very particular. You have to use a readable PDF. You must make sure that your PDF is not corrupt. I know some of this might be like, oh, I caught this information, but these are some of the simple things that create those simple mistakes that make you lose points or lose out on review period. So I just want to make sure I point out to you when I went through the instructions, I took out the ones that I thought this is some key stuff I want to make sure people don't miss. So one of the other things they want you to do is they want you to create a supplemental response for each original application that you submit. So if you submitted 2, you have to do a supplemental response for each one of those. And they give you the link. They want you to use the readable format for PDF. So I would check mine. So after I finish formatting it, before I press submit, I would close everything down. I'm one of those, I get self-conscious. You see the tech issues we just ran into, it happens. So I would shut everything down and open it all back up again and make sure that it's in that readable format before I press submit. That's what I would do. They want you to create and submit a separate PDF document for each exhibit and each application. So they want you to do a separate PDF of each exhibit for each application, and they want you to name it using the application unique ID number in the exhibit letter. Here, make sure you note that's what you name the file, not inside the document itself, because many of these documents are supposed to be anonymous. So make sure you don't put it in the document itself. This is the file title, the title of the PDF file, the file itself. So they give you an example here that I thought, let me throw this in here so that you can understand if you have, this isn't as scary of a thing to mess up if you only submitted one application, okay? But if you submitted more than one, you really need to pay attention to this number 3 on here, because they want you to do this in a very particular way for each application. So the example they give is a situation where you need to do a supplemental response for Exhibit H for 2 different applications. They call them original applications. And you need to do a supplemental response for Exhibit N for only one of them. So they want you to know here you would be submitting 3 separate PDF documents. Exhibit H for application 1, Exhibit H for application 2, and Exhibit N for application 1. All right, so just keep in mind how this goes is if you combine things and you don't do them right, that just gives them one more reason to overlook your information, even though you put really good information in there. Also, you know, de-identify those exhibits. I don't really see the need to put any identifying information in any of the exhibits. So in order to avoid the mistake, except, there are certain ones that you have to, I wouldn't do it, right? So like, I just stay away from that so that I wouldn't avoid making this mistake. All right. De-identify exhibits that must be anonymous. That's a repeat because it's that important. So I'm going to delete that when we finish up here today. Now let's move to the one, and Trisha, you'll see this is way more detailed than the last one because.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Yes, jump in.
On number 2, where it says submit the survey, for those of you who this is your first set of deficiency notices because you only apply for dispensary, you might encounter an error when you submit the survey. This happened with the people who did the Department of Ag deficiencies, where they encountered an error that said, you already did this, or it said something to the effect of, it wasn't valid, or you had already submitted it, or something like that, and you know you hadn't. If that happens, you need to send an email to the department at whatever email is in the email addresses in the email that they sent to you, because they can reset it. And there are several people that had this problem on the very last day. Like, it was so pervasive that I sent out an email with the subject, got an error, don't panic, because I was being bombarded with these. So, and I know what happens when you get to the very end and you're like, oh my God, I've done all this work and now I can't submit what I need to submit. So the best advice is, like SL said, do the survey well in advance, so you're not panicking when you get to that, so that you have time to get that fixed. But based on what happened before, they were really prompt about fixing those issues. So I just want to put that out there, that if it happens to you, this has happened before and it'll be okay.
And to keep going off what Trisha is saying, you'll see in number 1, I put confirm now that you have access to the secure links. Make sure you didn't get a messed up link. It happens. So just those are some of the basic things that you want to do ahead of time so that you're not panicking on the day of. All right, I'm going to move on to this project status chart, which is pretty involved, but you will see shortly why it's this involved. So what I did was I took that long email that they sent you all that didn't have any organization really to it or any structure. And I put that information in this chart by exhibit, title of exhibit, by score, if there is a score for that section, by the exhibit specific rules, okay? Because those rules are separated from those general instructions that they give you at the beginning of that email. And then what I did was I took out the legal citations, if they are applicable, and I put them in its own section right next to the exhibit specific rules. And then I went to the application instruction sheet and I pulled those as well. And I'm going to tell you, and then of course we have, what's the status of this? Is it in progress? And who is it assigned to? And this is why I'm saying it's very helpful if you have a team where you can separate some of this stuff, because then you can say, I'm only focused on this one line item or these 2 line items. So one of the things that they kept saying in the specific rules, for example, was they kept saying things like, let's look at this, for example, we are on exhibit D, right? And here they say, if you did not receive the maximum number of points available, your dispensing organization, agent training, and education plan did not contain all of the information required in the application instruction sheet for exhibit D and identify in this particular legal citation. So that's why I want to make sure that we don't just think, oh, let me just go pull up the statute. Make sure you're also looking at the instruction sheet just in case there's conflicting information or more detail in one or the other. So that is why I thought it was a good idea to go ahead and put not only the legal citation, but the application instruction right next to it, so that when you pull up that legal citation, right, and you have that instruction, you can see right in and there, like, okay, let me do my checklist. And what I mean by checklist is I want to use one that doesn't have all the points. So what I mean is, I will first, this is filled out for you guys, right? So you don't have to do anything on this sheet except for fill in your due date, that kind of stuff, but you need to just put in your scores, right? Fill out this score section, put in your scores. If you have a perfect score in a section, oh, I'm not doing anything with this. I would, for the sake of not driving myself crazy, I would hide this from myself. Now that I know I'm not doing anything with that. The ones that I have a perfect score for, the non-applicable ones, the things that I don't need to change, I would hide those, and that would make this look a lot less intimidating. The reason why I put it all on here is because I don't know all 66 of your scores. I don't know which ones you need to work on, but I wanted to format it for you because this is the thing that takes a lot of time. So at least now you just need to put in your score, and you can get rid of the sections that are like, I don't need to work on these. So for this particular example, I've already highlighted in red the ones that are missing points. And in this example, it's G, H, P, S, and T. And T, of course, is if they actually had veteran status already, but for some reason the agency overlooked it. So that's why I have the little asterisks there, because you can't create new veteran status under the way they're doing their rules at the moment. But we'll get to that probably during Q&A some. So now I'm knowing, okay, I'm looking at this general template. I put my scores in and I know, okay, I'm not working on any of these. So I'm going to close these so that I'm not confused, so that I don't have to, I'm going to close these. I'm only going to keep the ones I'm working on. All right, okay, I'm doing well. I'm going to close these. And I'm doing this so that I can move to how to get to trying to reverse engineer what points you might be missing. But before I do that, once again, organize like a lawyer. You want to make things as organized as possible so that it's not confusing. Okay, I know I'm doing well here. And let's say I can close these. All right, and let's say here in this particular case that this person was a veteran and that somehow they missed it. So I'm not going to close it. All right, so now I'm looking like, okay, this has become a lot more doable. Look, hopefully you all don't have as, you're around this range where you don't have so many to do. All right, so now I'm going to just pick one of these to give you an example of how I would manage this. All right, so I say, okay, I'm 12 out of 16 here. All right. Then I will look at the exhibit specific rules. And they're saying that I don't have all the information in the instruction sheet, possibly, or I don't have all the information in the statutes identified here. So if you were in the last one, you probably have an idea of what I'm going to do next. I'm going to pull up my original exhibit now. All right, so you're going to pull up your original exhibit. After I pulled up my original exhibit, I'm going to pull up the legal citation. And I'm sure most of you have this stuff on speed dial, the way I have it on speed dial. I'll pull up the law. And I don't need to go to my application instruction sheet because I pulled it already right here. Okay. And that's what I mean by trying to have less, clutter, by having it all in one place. And I'm in charge of this one, fixing this one. So after I pull up the law, I pull up these sections in the CRTA, I look at this, and then I'll pull up my original exhibit. So the example we're doing here is G. If this is my original exhibit right here, I would go on one column and put the things I found and the things I'm missing. And what I mean by that, those things are those specific legal citations and those specific instructions. So let's pull up the law here. It says 65A1, okay. Just give me a second. And Trisha, you know, you can always jump in, you know, because you probably kind of got a flow for this now after last time. But I want to give them an idea, because one of the things Trisha and I went over last time is how sometimes you're missing points because you did not use those buzzwords in the statute. Remember, we realized that folks were missing, you know, you really have to go ahead and use those buzzwords that they have in here. So here they're saying, go to 1565A1. So I'm gonna go to 16. Because one of the questions that the department has already answered is you all have been submitting questions asking them, how do you know which points you missed? How do you know which 3 points or which 4 points you missed? And they're saying, we're not going to tell you that. And so what I'm saying is there are ways to reverse engineer that by looking at the legal citation, looking at the application instructions, and seeing if your original exhibit refers to each and every element in the law and each and every element in the instructions. So here we're 65A1. And as you can see, this is tedious. So now I'm just gonna go to 65A1 here. Here we go. And I can see how folks might have missed stuff in this one just because it's not up by the scoring criteria. It's down in a section 65, which is called administration.
Are you on a new screen? Are you on a new screen?
Oh yeah, let me go. Let me share a new screen. Do you see the law now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how I think folks might have missed points in this exhibit. It is very likely that folks may have saw at the top part where they do the scoring parts. You know how they say you get 5 points for this, 12 points, you know, that part. And I think they may have missed the administration part, because that's where I think folks might have been making a mistake, is not going all the way down and seeing everywhere where they bring up the idea of recall, quarantine, destruction. So things aren't always in the same place in the CRTA. So it's better to use control find, because you may find that things are in different parts of the law, and that's where you're missing. So A1, right, that's all the way, that's a whole different section. I'm going to go back to the chart for a second so that folks can follow what I'm saying here, hopefully. Am I back at the chart now?
Yes.
Look, if you look at these legal citations for this exhibit, you're in multiple sections. You're in section 65, which is called administration, right? A1, A3, and you're looking at every element that they have in that particular citation. And you're looking at your original exhibit and saying, do I mention all of this stuff? If you mention it without saying the exact language in the statute, go say the exact language in the statute. This is not the time to paraphrase in that type of way. This isn't the time to say like, oh, I don't want to, what is it called? Plagiarize.
Right.
You do. you
want to plagiarize.
You need to plagiarize the law.
That's right.
The law you need to plagiarize, because that's where I think some of you are missing it, is because you didn't say exactly what they say in A1 here, exactly what they say in 65A3. They're giving you the citations, which is nice. They didn't organize them for you, but I did. So now all you guys have to do is go pull these citations for the exhibit, go pull your original exhibit. And if you can't find every element on this exhibit for 65A1, 65A3, 80D through E, 1590, A through D, 15D. Every single one of them, you should be able to find the actual plagiarized language of the law in your original exhibit. If you didn't, it needs to go in that missing column. I would do the law first, right? I will analyze my original exhibit with the law, and then I will move on to the instruction sheet here that says, describes recall practices, quarantine practice, destruction. And I will make sure again, do I specifically say, here are my recall practices. Here are my quarantine practices. Here are my destruction practices. So I think that's the best way to try to reverse engineer. Where did I miss these 4 points in this example? You missed them somewhere where you didn't plagiarize the actual legal citation, or you altogether didn't have it. You didn't have the information in there at all.
Right. And the reason why, and we covered this at length in the last one, but I know we got some new people here. The reason why we're suggesting this is because we know, and SL said in our last session, there's a lot of AI that's being used in scoring things and in, checking things. There are thousands of people that apply. So they put a lot of intelligence behind this. And what we expect and can anticipate is that AI is using keyword searches. So if you don't have the phrase, and I'm looking at the law right now, let me see something that is a term of art here. Reporting diversion, theft, or loss. Correcting errors and inaccuracies in inventory. If they're looking for the word diversion, and you said, I do things to help keep people from stealing. Yes, we both know that they mean the same thing. But if the AI was looking for the word diversion and they didn't find the word diversion, then you might have lost some points simply, or you might not have gone to the next piece, which is, here's all the applications that we found the word diversion in. Now let's read what it said.
Right. Same thing with correcting. Don't substitute that word. Don't say, loss prevention or something that's not in there. Go ahead and use the exact language that they use in the statute. And so I'm going to keep going with this Exhibit G. Once I've went through and I see, oh, I'm missing these particular key phrases from these citations. The next thing I'm doing is I'm going to this Word document. So to kind of give you an idea where I'm at, I'm about to pull the PowerPoint back up, Tricia, so keep them sort of organized in the information and where I'm at right now.
Okay.
So. What I just did on this is I showed you guys the instructions chart, which I would read in a lot of detail to make sure I'm following. And I would do things that I can do early, like make sure I have access to those links they sent me and that they're not corrupt, because they're using a lot of encryption. And if you're working on Teams and you're forwarding emails, one of the things I'm seeing is emails are cut off, probably because of some of the encryption technology that they're using, to where once you forward, it eliminates access to the link, that kind of thing. And then the next thing I showed you was the project status chart. And for you all, I organized every single exhibit with the legal citations on there so that you can know, have that already. You don't have to start from there. And then I suggested that you then input the information that only you can do, because I don't have your score sheet. And that is, go ahead and fill out what your score is in each section. And any section that you are not getting 100% of the points in, I will keep those visible. And every section that I'm getting 100% of the points in my score sheet, I will close those. I will hide them on the Excel sheet. The reason I'm not suggesting that you delete them is because these little Excel sheets, some of you might know, they can get kind of tricky when you start deleting sections. And I'm trying to make this as less of a headache as it can be with the organization. So that's why I'm saying hide instead of delete. So if you start deleting stuff, then it might create issues for you. And you might delete something that you find out later when you're double checking your work or triple checking your work. Oh, I do need that. And now you've deleted it. So hiding is a much better tactic when you're working on these legal problems. After that, the next document I want you to open up is I'm going to show you. So then I talked about marking up your original exhibit before I move to that. And I said there you want to see, can you correspond the legal citation referenced against the project status chart? And the legal citation include those statutory legal citations, any application instructions. You want to make sure you can find those key phrases in your original exhibit. When you find that you are not finding those key phrases, you want to put that they are missing. You want to mark that on your original exhibit. When you find them, you want to mark them as found. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into how I will approach the drafting of the response. This is only after I've organized all the information though. I will not be opening up a Word document to even begin drafting until I have 100% filled out my Excel sheet with my score. I've hidden all the sections that I don't need to worry about and do. I've assigned somebody on the team to each part. I've already done that preliminary instructions, check the links, make sure they work for me. All right, now I'm moving on to draft responses. Here, I want you guys to open up a document. And this one will be called, it's a Word document that's in your file, which hopefully we all have access to now. And it is called Deficiency Notice Response Template, IDFPR. I think I'm getting better about knowing how to keep sharing different screens, Trisha. Are you do you see my Word document now?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. And I knew I needed to come with extra rest today. I had a feeling, I could feel it in the atmosphere that tech was trying me today. And I was like, nope, I'm putting on my crown and I'm not even worried. All right. So now we are at the point where we have organized everything. We have it all in one place. We have marked up our exhibit. We know exactly what we're missing. I strongly suggest if you are handling as an individual more than one exhibit to complete an exhibit all the way to the end before you move on to the next exhibit. This stuff is too complicated in the sense that it's all over the place with the statutes and the law. I would only do one thing at a time. This is not the time to multitask. All right, so I'm working on my one. Now I'm ready. I'm like, okay, I'm organized. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on to what I'm missing. I'm giving you guys two templates here, similar to last time, but I've tweaked it for this particular process. This time we're gonna cover clarifying information first, the first response template. And here you're saying the reviewer has overlooked original information that was not missing in the original exhibit pursuant to the legal standard, which is just lawyer language for according to my review of the law. All right. So in this example, it's very similar to last time with a few changes because we're not doing measures. So I would organize my legal citations at the top. Again, I would insert my specific. Here, you are not making anything up here. It's already on your Excel sheet. So I would put the actual legal citation on there. So if this were, let's keep with our same example, because for some reason I'm feeling like I really want to like give the examples in person today. So I'm knowing, okay, I need this one. What else do I need? I know I need these. Now, let me tell you something about how I would do this. I wouldn't put D through E here. When they give me a range, I would separate them out, because this is how you easily miss stuff. What I just did was pull this from the chart, because I'm working on that one that we're on G. A, B, C, D, E. Okay. I will see here. Again, I would not use the range. So we going B, C, D, and then I would go back on my chart again, and I would see application instructions, and I will pull those too. And that is only because their deficiency notices from this agency are saying that. So let me just show you what I mean by that. I'm using the language from the deficiency notice here. You don't have to reinvent anything. It's actually better to mirror them. And then I would say, okay. Exhibit G, instructions. This might seem a little extra, but I'm telling you, this is better. I think you guys are seeing who did not win the spelling bee. All right. All right, these are all the legal citations applicable. The reason I'm including the instructions here as part of the legal citations is because this agency, once again, they put in those notices and those supplemental instructions, you didn't include the law and you possibly didn't include all of the elements in the instructions. So this is a way to, again, have another roadmap that says, let me see, did I do all of this? All right. And in this example, we're saying this isn't missing. You know, because you already looked at your original exhibit G and you didn't have anything in your missing column. But yet your score is missing points. But you found it in your original exhibit. I'm going to let you know right now, I think that is a very rare occasion, but I do think it happens, especially for some of these where they have so many different citations. I think you want to be very careful saying that you already did it here. Please double, triple check that you did it. And then I would say, okay, now I have my legal citations at the top. Now I'm moving into my response. And here I would take every single one of these and make a response for why I did do it. Starting with the first one. Attach supporting documentation if you need to attach a supporting the documentation. Title what that documentation is. And then I would start off with pursuant to, according to, or based on, or under this legal citation. This supplemental response provides additional detail to fully comply with the requirements of the law. And here, I would start going into how I'm not missing anything. The other example I gave, stuff was missing. So once again, I'm using this, let's use this to say, oh man, I did have stuff missing. So I'm taking my legal citations. And actually these are, my apologies guys, these are actually mismatched. I don't know if you caught that, Trisha, did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah, they're mismatched. So this should be, hold on. And by the way, at the end, what I do, what I did last time, is I fixed any errors in the documents and I re-uploaded them so that you guys can have the clean versions. And I'm gonna do that again tonight. So this actually should be this one. And this one should be up here. So I'm gonna run that back again. One example, you gotta give them new information because information was missing. I'm pulling up the citations and I'm going through each one by one. What was missing here? And I'm explaining to them additional detail of why I do comply, because it was missing. That's the first example. The second example is when it's not missing. They overlooked it. So I'm using the same citations again. No, I checked. They overlooked something. Then I'm putting my specific citation, starting with, I do one at a time, again. And this is when I'm saying, this is where I change things up, Trisha, because of how they asked for it in the instructions. I now refer to it the way they do, which is my original exhibit. So here I'm saying pursuant to, according to, based on, under this legal citation, this one here. This supplemental response describes in detail how our original exhibit, we're using G here, does fully comply with the requirements of the law. Below, we summarize how the original exhibit, I'm using G here, satisfies the legal criteria. However, we request that the department review our original exhibit as further described. Original exhibit, insert specific citation, brief summary of where and why. I think this is a good time, Trisha, for me to take a quick 2-minute break and then open up the floor to become more interactive. I wanted to run through the documents like I did last time, get through any tech issues.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
It's a good time to stop and start taking questions. Okay.
That's good. And I'm going to remind everyone, if you have a question, you need to put it in the Q&A box and not the chat, because people keep typing stuff in the chat and the chat is for chat purposes.
Oh.
We can miss questions. So I want you to put them in Q&A, because what happens at the end, you can go ahead, SL. I'm gonna just keep talking. You
Okay.
can go ahead and take your break. Because as we go through the questions, the Q&A box has a queue. We could pull the question up, we could type an answer, we could read the question out loud, and then the questions will sit in the queue until it's cleared. With the chat, I gotta scroll through to hopefully not miss something. And I wanna make sure that we don't miss anyone's question. So if you've already typed a question in the chat and you have not put your question in the Q&A box, please put your question in the Q&A box. So I also, someone put in the chat, this is not a question, but more so a statement. And it's a really good suggestion, is to, if word spell check would change the way something is spelled, for example, agent in charge with a hyphen or without hyphens, make sure you use the spelling that is in the law and not allow Word to change it so that the AI would still work the way you would expect it to work. I see lots of questions coming into the Q&A box, and I appreciate that. Matter of fact, I guess I could start my camera so you all can see me, so I'm not just a talking screen. And the other thing that I said earlier, in case you have not heard it, or if you came in late, that if you get an error on the survey, make sure that you send them an email so that they can fix it, because those links can break. And so that was a quick break.
I know. This drink might look fancy, but this is lemonade. Want to be clear.
Oh, margarita.
No, that's just muddled up. Look, muddled up lemon and mint and lemonade. It just looks fancy. But I am ready. I want to start though by saying thank you for your patience, because this happens, all right? So I appreciate all of you for being extremely patient with us this evening as we work through tech issues and errors, because you guys have to keep in mind, I'm not getting this information early.
Right.
I got it Thursday night, all right? And I'm putting this together as quickly as possible so that I can get it to you as quickly as possible, and also in a competent way as well. So, you know, I appreciate you being patient, and I'm definitely ready to stick around and answer questions.
And I want to say we appreciate you being proactive and providing us wonderful tools to be able to respond and compete with all of the people who have the big dollars to be able to pay somebody to do this for them. Because you guys don't know, but this time SL contacted me. Last time I contacted SL, this time she was like, you probably know the dispensary's got deficiency notices. And I was like, no, nobody contacted me yet. So she was like, hey, let's do a webinar on Tuesday. I'm here for it. So let's go ahead and jump into these questions so that we're not here too late, because I'm not even at home yet. I'm still at my office. Okay,
let's do it.
So first question was, are all principal officers required to have completed responsible vendor training certification prior to submitting our application?
You know that off the top of your head, Trisha?
I do not.
No, I don't have that one off the top of my head.
So yeah, that's one we would probably have to research. I'm gonna leave this one open so that we don't lose track of it. Okay, next question is, do I assume the only exhibits that are not perfect are the ones that are deficient?
Say that again?
Do I assume the only exhibits that are not perfect are the ones that are deficient?
The ones that don't have perfect scores?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because if you got a perfect score, there's nothing else to do.
Right. I wouldn't touch anything that has a perfect score. If an exhibit has all the points available, I would not touch it.
Yep. I only received notice for one application, although we applied for two. Should I reach out to the department email to inquire?
I would, yes. Because it's chances are you use pretty similar exhibits. You know, I don't want to make too many presumptions, but that's usually what I'm seeing. And so I would, yes.
And I'll also say, if I'm not mistaken, I had heard that there were people who used the exact same application for multiple locations and got perfect scores on one and didn't get perfect scores on the other.
Right.
So it behooves you to be able to do that, if for no other reason than to be able to have a paper trail.
Yes.
If you need it later.
Yes. And this issue is related to that chart that I showed you all in the PowerPoint where I said there are multiple areas of law at play here. And this goes into due process and administrative law. If they are not consistently following the rules and they're not consistently applying standards and they're not consistently grading and scoring exhibits, that means that you may have more recourse, you know, around whether your due process rights were violated or whether they're following proper administrative law procedures. So that's why it's important for you to make inquiries now. If you see something like that, go ahead and start a paper trail and start contacting them and say, hey, I have submitted another application using these same exhibits. What's going on? I'm seeing a conflict in the information and instructions that you're giving me.
Good stuff. That's good stuff. So, okay, next question. Suppose you had a copy of an exhibit where you got some points off from someone that got a perfect score. Would you be able to just resubmit their complete exhibit as is?
Suppose you have, say that one more time.
So suppose you had a copy of an exhibit where you got some points off from someone that got a perfect score. So I'm thinking that they're saying they got a copy of anonymous attendee. I'm going to ask you to clarify, but this is what I think the question is. That, and I heard that this has happened, that people are swapping exhibits.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so that they're saying, okay, someone else got a perfect score, and instead of me just answering my notice, my deficiency notice, that I could just resubmit the complete exhibit as is.
Okay, so first I'm gonna say proceed with extreme caution. I am watching the chat box right now and I love some of what I'm seeing because I believe in cooperative working. And I've noticed that you guys are being very cooperative with each other around sharing information, potentially doing exhibit swaps and things like that. And I'm here for that. Okay, I'm here for that. But you always still need to use some caution when you're doing that because you still need to double check anything somebody's giving you because you're still in a competition. So at the end of the day, I would still trust and verify. So if I had a situation where someone said, give me your perfect exhibit G and I give you my perfect exhibit H, I'm just, you know, making this up. I'd be open to that swap. And then I would still check their exhibit against the legal citations that they're saying that I'm missing, right? Because they gave you a deficiency notice saying you're missing things. And so you want to make sure when you're submitting your, let's say you're trying to use that template I had in this situation, I would still go through there and put the legal citations down in my supplemental response. I wouldn't just submit it without any supplemental response context to it, number one, and I wouldn't submit it without double checking the citations against it.
In other words, show your work. Like we were in high school. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, the next question is, do you suggest keeping the law's wording be kept together? For example, the quarantine, recall, and destruction citations can be divided into each section. Should I still keep language together as the law states it?
So they're saying in a situation where you want to talk about quarantine separately, recall section separately, and destruction separately, I think you're fine if you want to separate those out. The thing that you want to do is have all of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question was, oh, this one is easy and I can type the answer in. What is the URL to get copies of the spreadsheet?
Yes.
There's the URL. It's in the,
Keep in mind that after we finish, I'm going to clean up the documents, because as we go through them, I begin to see things I can clean up for you. And by the end of tonight, they will be cleaned up. So I would say when you wake up in the morning, that version of the URL is the best version of documents to use.
awesome. Next question, what if you did paraphrase the act instead of the exact language of the law? Should you consider it missing or in the original with explanation of how it's there?
If I paraphrased and I'm missing points in that exhibit, I would then go in my original exhibit and see where I paraphrased. And then I would go back to my supplemental response and I would say, I did include it. I included it now using the exact language. See below, and I will point to where in my original exhibit they can find that answer. But I would use in my supplemental response when I'm describing why that's correct, I would use the exact language from the statute. So that's why I say describe how and why. How is, these are the places in my original exhibit I did it. Why is that's correct because pursuant to this specific legal citation, these particular things need to be had and they're in my original exhibit.
Okay. Next question is, how should we consider page limits?
They did not give any limiting directions on page limit in this supplemental response, meaning they didn't say, hey, don't make a supplemental response that exceeds the original page limit, or your supplemental response can only. So as far as I'm concerned right now, there is no rule. You may submit a question to the agency if you guys would like, and I don't think it's anything wrong with asking questions as opposed to finding out some bad news later when they try to make, rules in the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, I don't see that listed.
And I'll say in the prior set of deficiency notices, there were no limits on pages for your supplemental responses.
Perfect. So maybe they're not doing that.
Yep. But I also think I do recall seeing something in the Q&A where somebody actually asked a question too, and then they did clarify that there was no page limit. Next question is, should you be using the same language mentioning you addressed something in your original exhibit, even if you did not include that portion in the original exhibit?
No. If you did not include something in your original exhibit, that means you're missing it. And in that case, you want to use the template example that has to do with, I am missing this information. Let me supplement my answer with this additional information, and then use that original statutory language. Anything that you find missing, meaning it's missing because it's not even paraphrased, you want to supplement if you're missing points.
I'm trying to, I'm trying to keep up.
No, go ahead. The dispensary process is a lot more muddled for many reasons than the DOA process. So I expect it to be here for a little while,
Okay, next question. Forgive my need for remediation. I just want to clarify, we can only address exhibits IDFPR deemed deficient, correct?
Correct, in the sense that if you look at your score sheet and your exhibit does not have 100% of the points available in that section for that exhibit, then that is deficient. And you do want to respond with a supplemental response. If you have a perfect score for that exhibit, I would not touch it.
Next question is, can we provide more information than what is stated we were missing? Can we submit more supporting documents than required in exhibits? The I don't know what
SIV?
yeah, what is SP? I don't know what SP is.
Let me pull up the list. S is evidence of status as an Illinois owner. Evidence of status as and P is evidence of status as a social equity applicant.
Gotcha.
So I might need a clarifying for this, but if you're saying more than what they say you're missing, to that specific question, I would say no. You only want to give them what they're saying you're missing. When you say, can we submit more submitting documents than required? I would say for an exhibit like that, you want to submit as many proofs that you meet that qualification as possible, particularly because it doesn't look like they gave you a page limit. So if you got some additional proof and you want to shore it up, go for it. If they release guidance in the Q&A over the next 2 weeks, and let me make sure you guys are looking at that Q&A that they put out. I put it in the folder, and I also put a link to it in there, and I'm about to drop it in the chat box. But they have started answering questions already. I just dropped it.
Okay. And I'm going to copy that link right now.
But yeah, be careful adding stuff that's not a part of what they asked for in the exhibit. But at the same time, when it comes to supporting documentation, you want to make sure you give as much good supporting documentation as you can.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next question. Since the veteran section is optional, will the applicant have an opportunity to add a veteran?
Not at this time. Right now, the instructions for that say to demonstrate veteran status, it says applicants may not add a principal officer in Exhibit T in response to this supplemental notice, except for an instance of death. Meaning that if you didn't have veteran status when you submitted your application, they are not allowing you to amend your application for it, except for in the unfortunate circumstance that one of your principal officers dies. Again, I want to be very clear that this veteran issue has not been finalized. It is currently undergoing rigorous debate in the legislature, as many of you know, and it is also undergoing litigation. So it is very possible that the courts could decide that that veteran status in there is not constitutional under the Illinois law, or it's very possible that the legislators could deem it just completely and wholly unfair and change the rules. So I don't want you guys to feel like, should I keep doing this if I can't get these points? Yes, keep doing it. Keep yourself in the fight.
Yep, absolutely. Next question, just want to get clarification. As you have shown in the response template and list the citation number, should we also copy the details of the citation or description from the act to our supplemental response as well?
So, as you were showing the response list, yes. In your supplemental response, if you mean the narrative part, remember, you're not giving them your organization template. That is to help you organize the information that you draft for your narrative, your supplemental response. And yes, you would like to go ahead and put the citations in there and use the language from the act.
Okay. My question is, how do I handle my deficiency notice saying my application was not graded because I am missing Exhibit H, security plan, and Exhibit N, my experience?
Okay, this is a great question. For those of you who received you're missing and you have not been graded, you want to handle your notice by providing a supplemental response using the template that says what's missing and submit those exhibits. Now, this is me presuming that you didn't submit that. If you did submit it, you want to put in your supplemental response, I did submit my Exhibit H and my Exhibit N. But if you find like, oh man, I missed that, go ahead and supplement it and submit those. And then I think what they're doing in that case is after they have a complete application, then they're going to score it.
Okay. Okay, so Tobias Licker said if someone wants to connect and share resources, he put his email in the chat. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, next is when citing, should we use a shortened citation from the deficiency notice? Example 15-65A1, or the full longer citation, 410 ILCS 705/15-65.
I would mirror, or I would use the full formal citation. If I'm mirroring, I'm using 15-65A1 of the Act, because that is exactly what they put in the instructions, in the exhibit specific instructions. If that makes you uncomfortable because you're one of those citation sticklers, which I certainly can be, I would put the full citation, that's fine. But I wouldn't just put 1565A1. I will put of the Act, only because that's how they write it on the exhibit specific instructions.
Okay, next question. Appreciate the method of backtracking through the law and through the instructions to find missing pieces.
You're welcome. That's probably the most important part of today. Was my hope was that you guys would understand how to figure out where those missing points are.
Yep. Okay. And it's so helpful because this is exactly the same thing that we did before. It's just that, like SL said, your email from them, and I haven't seen actually anybody's email, but your email from them isn't as detailed as what was provided by IDOA. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack. So you went above and beyond this time, girlfriend. Okay.
Thank you.
Um,
Hopefully I can be forgiven for my tech issues. I'll tell you, I'm not gonna lose no sleep though.
right. Okay, so next question. As it pertains to sufficient documentation for Exhibit P, which is the SCA Section 1-10 of the Act under resided, the Act states, any other proof of residency or other information necessary to establish residence as provided by rule. IDOA mentioned this in their notice, however, IDFPR did not. With that being said, is the documentation limited to what the supplemental notice lists, or does the Act supersede what the supplemental notices say? For example, the former would mean I would be able to supply a credit card statement or some other document that lists my name and DIA address, but credit cards are not specifically listed as a document, but would fall under, quote, any other proof of residency.
Okay, so there's a long and a short answer to this. I'm gonna start with the short answer. The short answer to this is, if you are finding that you are not able to meet your proof based on the ever-changing list that they give in order to accommodate folks that continue not to be able to meet their list, I would submit it as a question to them. Number one, short answer. Number two, short answer. I would be trying to show my proof in all kind of ways if I got it. Now, if you're using a credit card statement, please delete your account number, because, hey, hackings happen to even the best organizations and agencies. So in this example, they don't say credit card, I would ask. I don't hear back from them about it, or I didn't get a chance to ask about something and I found out last minute, oh, I do have whatever statement. I would use it, because I would keep trying to show proof, because you can always argue on the back end why something should have counted, right? Especially if you have a good lawyer, because a good lawyer could say, this is a legal term of art in agency law, administrative law, arbitrary and capricious. It's arbitrary and capricious that you would take certain financial records like bank statements or like tax records, but you won't take credit card statements. So that's just to give you an example of, if you don't do it, right? If you don't provide it on the front end, then you lose out on potential arguments later that you could make to keep yourself in the game. The longer answer is, this could potentially be litigated it might very well be litigated, because what I'm seeing in this process in particular, that's a little different than DOA, and I think it's because they had time to learn from the mistakes of what's going on with this, is I'm seeing a lot of stuff that some real thrifty lawyers. I started my career in litigation. I am no longer a litigator, but if I were still a litigator, I'm seeing a lot of stuff in here that's very conflicting, that isn't consistent, that sometimes feels arbitrary. So if you feel that way, you're not alone. The best lawyers are looking at this feeling that way. All right. What may be needing to happen, though, is some of this may have to play out through court.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you set yourself up, like you said, to be able to be a party to those suits, or to be able to either have your own suit or show that whatever, now it applies to me because you went ahead and did it.
Yes, you benefit. You can be a beneficiary. See, that's what I love about the litigation that's going on in this area. Let's say you can't afford all that lawyer money, which is expensive. But if you keep your head in the game, you could be able to benefit from the remedies that those lawsuits get. But you can't benefit from them if you didn't submit your documents or if you didn't do your supplemental process.
Yep. Next question, should we include additional information for instructions also as a safe measure?
Should we include additional information for instructions also as a, should we include additional information for instructions? I'm not sure. Do you get that question?
Jason, can you submit clarification on this one? I'm going to dismiss this pending your clarification. Okay, next question. I have been advised I'm missing 2 exhibits completely. They were submitted. Do I just resubmit and follow the directions you're providing tonight?
Okay, I'm getting this question enough to where when I revise the template, I might add a third one that's just for this.
Okay.
Just to reiterate, you are going to be saying, if you did submit it, you're saying, I did submit it. All right. In this case, you're like, what do you mean I'm missing it? I'm not missing it. I did submit it. You missed it. You're going to use the I did submit it. And this is how and where and why. If you did not submit it, you're going to say, here's my supplemental additional information, and you're going to submit it. And I don't mind answering these questions, Trisha, because it is a convoluted process. I had to double check, triple check. And I've been doing regulatory law, complex, multiple states, multiple countries. So it's complex, you guys.
Yep. And I was just going to repeat the answer. I was just going to say, yeah, I think we answered this, and this is what we said. So, okay, next question is, when is a deadline for questions to the agency? I don't believe, go ahead.
It's in the instructions, but what I don't want to presume is that you all got the same deadline, because I haven't seen all 66 of yours or however many people are here right now. So it's in your instructions, the deadline. The one that I use my example based off of, I believe, had a deadline of next Friday.
Oh, you're talking about submission instructions, though. She's saying questions.
Submit questions. Oh, here, let me look at the, if you click that link I had with the FAQs, it's right at the top. And it says the department will accept questions until Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021 at 12 p.m. Central Standard, and post the last round of answers on Thursday, March 4th, 2021. I'm just going to drop it so it's at the top of the chat again. You'll see it right at the top.
Okay.
Just looking for my chat box. I'm starting to have a bunch of boxes here.
Yes. And it seems like the questions list keeps staying the same.
That's okay, because it is confusing. I had to look at it a bunch of times.
Yes.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, next question is, can I get a letter from a utility to confirm residence stating that I have been a customer since 2011 to satisfy the 5 years?
Hold on, I'm almost sure utility bills are listed on here. What exhibit are they talking about? Did they say?
No, he didn't say.
Okay, I'm almost sure utility bill is listed on there. Please look at that Excel sheet that I put on here, where I put exhibit specific rules, and read and scroll. And because it's an Excel sheet, there might be missing information. So make sure you click in there and you take that cursor all the way down. If you don't see them saying they accept utility, email them and ask them if that's okay. If you don't hear back from them, submit your utility bill for the same reasons I said about credit card bills. Delete your personal information, account number, things like that. Submit it though, and explain to them that you think that it's consistent with the rule for these reasons. You accept these type of documents which are in the same category.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be hard to prove that stuff, you know, like with one document, you move around, that kind of thing. So you might have to piece this stuff together.
Yep.
All right, I'm ready.
Next question, example, if quarantine, recall, and destruction can include the same legal citation in each section, is it okay to repeat it? I see 1565A a lot, and it can apply to each section. So is it a big deal that I keep using it in each section?
No, it's never a big deal to keep using a legal citation if it's applicable. Use it on up. This is where repetition is your friend. You know, when we first grow up learning how to write papers, they tell you don't repeat yourself. And then if you go to law school, it's like a total mind cluster because you start learning that all you do in the legal industry is repeat yourself. That is legal writing. Legal writing is repeating yourself constantly.
Next question is, if IDFPR is saying that we are disqualified, but we received an email to submit again, but have no scores, where do we stand with submitting at this point?
Where you stand is that the things that they say you are disqualified for, because if, first of all, they should have told you what exhibits you were missing or what your grounds for disqualification were. So I would ask them that. That would be the first thing I ask. After I found out what exhibits, as my understanding is that they were supposed to submit to you guys what exhibits you were missing that led to your disqualification.
Mm-hmm.
And once I have those grounds, I would submit a supplemental response, supplementing and adding the additional detail I need to not be disqualified.
Okay, so I zoned out for a second because I didn't take a break like you did. So
I know. We could swap now, you know. I don't have to only take the break. You could take a break. And you could...
I was like, oh, that's so smart. I should have taken a break. Okay. No, I'm good. I can press through. Okay, so because I'm typing all your answers because they also remain in the Zoom area. So okay, so ask them why you were disqualified.
Yes.
Second part was.
And when you ask them why you were disqualified, I would get kind of detailed so I can get as much information. Why was I disqualified? Under what legal citations did I not meet the criteria?
You're setting yourself up for remediation later.
What particular exhibits did I have deficiencies? I never received a deficiency notice or disqualification notice. This is another real touchy issue, as many of you know. When they have the deficiency notice process in the statute, what does that mean? Does that mean that you should receive information about a disqualification too? What would a reasonable judge think? This is administrative law. This is due process law. And this is why it's important for you guys to fight now.
And then you, go ahead.
No, because I was going to say in administrative law court with those type of proceedings, judges only look at the record before them. So you don't get to add exhibits. You don't get to add proof. You only get to show them what was in front of the agency. So that's why it's important that you put as much information before the agency without breaking the rules. Because you don't want to do things that break the rules.
And then you submit again anyway, correct? You submit a supplemental response.
Yes, my understanding is that they were supposed to be asking folks to submit a supplemental response from disqualification.
Mm. Okay. Next question is, okay, I saw it further down. So I'm gonna dismiss this because I saw two questions down. Next question is, so if our application was not scored, should we still try to submit a supplemental response document?
If our applicant, yes, if you receive from the, okay, first of all, you want to know why you weren't scored. So if you didn't get a score or notice that you were disqualified, you want to contact the agency and say, I applied for a license and I didn't receive any deficiency notices or any notice that I was disqualified or a score sheet. May I have my score sheet, my deficiency notice, and or my notice that I was disqualified? And if I was disqualified, please explain to me under what legal citations I was disqualified. What legal authorities, you know, I'm giving you guys some roadmaps here. Those of you who have an application, no deficiency notice and no score sheets need to contact them ASAP.
Let me read what I just typed because my brain has been going on straight conscious and I'm like, what did I just type? I want to make sure it makes sense. All right, yep. Question is, where do I get a score sheet? So basically, you need to go back to the department and ask them, I need to see my score sheet. Because how would you know how to respond?
You're not going to know how to respond without asking for it. If you did not get your score sheet, ask the department for your score sheet.
One more question for me, sorry. No problem, Elena. That's why we're here. In my deficiency response, I'll be using the I'm missing information template. I was going to use my original exhibit, just edit it with the missing information or citations, or is it best to respond with only what I believe I've missed?
It is best to respond how I've been describing it tonight. So I would not take my original exhibit and edit it. I would instead create a supplemental response document that says exactly what's missing from my original exhibit. Because in here, you're saying that you know you're missing information. So if you know you're missing information, use the template for missing information and describe what information was missing. So only what is missed, because they don't want you to submit repetitive information, which they write in those general instructions. They write, only tell us the supplemental stuff. Don't resubmit your original exhibit. So while I did put these things in a chart for you, let me tell you what I would do if I was at this presentation. I would take even my chart, print out my instructions, my email, and I will do check boxes on my chart to make sure that you have everything you need in that chart. It's called trust and verify.
That's right.
We are all human. I'm not a machine. I'm not AI. So double check what I'm telling you.
That's the best advice ever. Double check anything that anybody tells you.
Someone wrote something on here that's very helpful in the chat box, which is that you need to click view entire message to get the score sheet. And it was very misleading. Yes, it was. And the other thing is I found that some folks, when they were forwarding emails, it was not forwarding because I think they have an encryption on it. So yes, you need to click it. And if it's missing, you need to contact them and tell them that that something is going on with your original email file to where you're not able to open up all of the parts. Please make sure you click the part that says entire message, Because if you don't, you'll miss instructions that's in there. While I did cut, paste, and format it on the Excel sheet, you should be trusting and verifying and reviewing this information for yourself.
For the security exhibits, I got a first round deficiency notice to execute a security contract. I cured it, but still am missing 8 points. In my response, should I add information I've already cured?
So in this situation, information that you cured, first go and see if you're missing anything. If in this situation you are missing things and you're looking like I got 8 points, it's probably from those things that you're missing. So I would say to them, I already submitted this security contract in my supplemental response. Please see my supplemental response dated whatever, right? I will still refer back to it to remind them because they are making mistakes over there. So I would say, I did submit this that was deficient. I wouldn't submit it all over again. I would just tell them that I did it and to go look at it. Okay, I wouldn't resubmit that part. And then for the things that I see missing, I would then go into detail with an additional supplemental response just for those things.
Okay, next question. My application is being disqualified and I found my deficiency was because I failed to redact my name in the first deficiency round. How do I submit that?
So I want to make sure I understand this because one, they're still kind of, I think, deciding how they want to deal with some of this disqualification stuff, but in this situation, if they said to you, you were disqualified for these reasons, and they're saying that you can resubmit, I would resubmit redacting the information that I was supposed to redact. And I would say, I have submitted my response, my supplemental response attached, meeting the criteria of insert legal standard, redacting my personal information from the exhibit. Make sure that they're accepting that though. Because that's one that I'm not sure if where they've landed on it. I want you guys to know that, number one, you can submit brief advising questions to me by email. On that key links Word document, I have a link to our social equity initiative website where you can click brief advising and submit email questions to me. That is the only way I accept questions about things. I don't accept just a direct email. You have to submit it through that form, because in order for me to keep doing this great work with Trisha, I have to be able to prove the work that I'm doing. So doing it through the form allows me to do that. You will see on there that I say that the typical response is 7 to 10 business days. Please put on your form that you are asking about this deficiency notice process so that I can expedite a response for you. My goal is to give you guys responses within 24 to 48 business hours.
That's good stuff.
And we're doing another follow-up on Tuesday.
That's right. That's right. And I will be sending that link out either tonight or first thing in the morning. And it's already out there. If you actually go to our site and go to webinars, you'll see it. Because some people have already registered. So you can be proactive and do it on your register on your own. Okay.
I just put a link in the chat too.
Next question is, if I didn't get points for Exhibit P because I didn't realize I was one house away, wow, but I have 51% of my employees are living in a DIA, can I submit their info to get social equity points? Also, they ask for proof of full-time employment for the employees. What should I submit to show proof?
Okay, this might be one that I want to look at the instructions a little bit more closer instead of answer later.
Okay.
The reason why I want to do that is because I want to see if in their instructions they say that you cannot change the basis of your social equity status. And I don't think they do, but I don't want to say that off the top of my head. And because it's getting late, I want to be able to analyze it with a clear head.
Okay.
I don't believe that they say that. I think they say you can't just become a social equity person, but I don't think they say anything about whether you can change it from employer based or personal based. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I will leave that one open. Next question is, can we modify exhibits that we think are deficient even though application was not scored?
So I wouldn't do that because they didn't give you the instructions for that yet. And the chances are is that they're going to need to give you deficiency notices once they actually score your application. But I do believe that this is another good question to ask them so that you guys, part of the reason why you want to participate in an agency's Q&A and you actually don't want to hide your questions from them is because you want to lock them into a story around what their procedures, policies, and practices are so that you can make sure that they are following due process and administrative laws in the state of Illinois. If you aren't asking them these questions right now, then they get to have a lot more creativity and wiggle room later around
Mm-hmm.
what they tell you that they're doing. If you ask them now, you begin to lock them into a story, even if you don't like that story. And if you don't like that story, maybe a lawyer can help you challenge that story.
That's right. Why on the DIA map that skipped over areas that should be DIA but covered areas that are rural areas and don't have houses? How should I address that question? And to who should I address it to?
You need to send that question to the agency.
Will they possibly score down if we add new information and say we missed adding it the first time, or will we be scored on the new supplemental info?
You're being scored on the supplemental info. The purpose of this is to increase your score. So my guess is your supplemental info can increase or not change your score. I highly doubt that it can decrease your score, but please feel free to send this question to the agency.
Instructions want us to demonstrate or describe certain requisites. Can it be possible that we missed points due to our explanation or description? If so, would it be safe to add additional information as precautionary?
I don't want you guys to use the standard of precautionary. I don't want you guys to use anything but legal standards. So what I mean by that is I'm seeing different versions of that being asked tonight. And I want to be clear that that's not what we're doing. We're thinking like lawyers. Lawyers would not do anything precautionary like that in this situation. A lawyer would look at the exhibit, look at the application instructions for that exhibit, and we would look at the legal citations and the statutes, and we would see what we're missing under the law. That's it. I wouldn't do a like, well, maybe I should add this too, or maybe I should precautionary address this. We will follow their instructions.
Okay, we received a deficiency notice for Exhibit P in May 2020. At that time, one of the two SEAs lived in Illinois, but his expungement was not in Illinois, so he didn't qualify. We submitted the deficiency notice with the change, redistributing the ownership percentage so that the one person versus two would be SEA and 51% owner. Our application was scored 0 points for Exhibit P. Now we see that you could not change ownership. Is this something that can be litigated? Because I couldn't find anything in the rules about not changing ownership percentages until now.
This is another good example of how they are making up this process as they go, and some of the rules that they are creating might be deemed arbitrary and capricious. The way I would answer this question is that I think with the amount of money that in resources that you guys are investing in this, that it is well worth it to get an opinion about whether you can challenge some of these decisions that they're making. As an attorney, it would be improper for me to tell you, yeah, you can litigate that for sure, because that's just not how legal advising works. It doesn't work that way. A lawyer really needs to counsel and sort through and screen exactly what you're going through. We need to look at laws and not just the CRTA and this stuff. lawyers of all those buckets of laws that I showed you earlier, we're looking at all of that to see where you possibly may be able to get relief.
Because there's a whole lot of proof and evidence that would be needed beyond what was submitted in this question. And somebody, and your attorney would be looking at all of that to make a decision.
And a bunch of law.
That whole I did submit issue is creating space for litigation because they're having lost applicants. Exhibits denies applicants the ability to address any deficiencies should they exist. Finding myself with the need to use the I did submit template does not put me in the same footing as my peers. The next issue is the veterans points issue. If you were born disabled, you cannot be a veteran. Thanks for listening. I have no more substantive questions that will be quiet now. So it's more so just a statement. Okay, understand. And you're frustrated. And we get that you're frustrated because this is a frustrating process, especially when the rules keep getting changed and pieces keep getting moved and you're doing things based on one thing and then something else comes up. So we get it.
No, I understand your frustration, but I do want to go ahead and reiterate around the I did submit thing. This is a situation where you want to be very careful about whether when you did submit that you met those criteria. If they're saying, if you're not getting the points in that scenario, because the I did submit could relate to, they're saying you have no exhibits submitted, right? And it could relate to, they're saying you have submitted it, but you didn't meet all of the criteria. In the situation where they're saying you submitted it, but you didn't meet all the criteria, you want to check to see what criteria you might be missing. In the situation where they're saying you didn't submit it at all, you want to submit it and tell them I did submit it, see my original exhibit. If they saying we don't have it, tell them I gave it to you.
And I ask this because it's my understanding that when you all submitted things, that you got some sort of confirmation that it was received. So if you don't have your confirmation, it's possible that them saying they don't have it is because there was some glitch that happened,
right?
And they did not actually receive it,
right?
Even though you submitted it, they might not have actually received it. Like that is actually possible. So in that instance, it kind of falls under the go ahead and resubmit, because you could say you submitted it all day long, but I've talked to people who said, well, I know I submitted stuff. And I'm like, well, did you get your confirmation? Well, no, I never got my confirmation.
Right. Because like Trisha's saying, if you have the confirmation proof, then submit to them saying, I have confirmation, and submit to them that as your supplemental attachment. Remember I said like proof of submit that, submit your confirmation. If you don't have confirmation, then I would say I submitted it, but I did not receive a confirmation email. So perhaps there was a technical difficulty on your end, because I did not receive anything on my end saying that there was an issue. So therefore I am resubmitting, see attached. One of the issues I believe that may also be going on with Leslie Faye's comment, that why I want to dig into it a little bit, Trisha, just a little bit more, is there's a situation where this could get sticky because they're saying something is missing. You saying it's not missing. All of a sudden they find it. Once they find it and score it, do they then give you notice of a deficiency?
Right.
So this is what I mean by I understand your frustration, and our goal is to try to equip you as much as we can with all the information we have now. And we're going to keep trying to do that as we move forward.
What are our FOIA rights?
Okay, so this is once again way too detailed of an answer to give in a short sort of a spurt, because the FOIA Act is a long document, no different than the CRTA. But what I will say is, to get yourself acclimated, I would start with Google and I would look up Illinois FOIA Act, and you might be able to see some guidance from Illinois Legal Aid and some of those. And I am considering, as Trisha knows from the last workshop, I'm getting this question enough to where I may do a whole workshop just on FOIA.
Yeah, because I know of one person that's on this card who actually asked for her scores under FOIA. This was before the deficiency notices came out and was denied.
Right. And that's because they have exceptions that have to do with when there's a competitive process going on. For example, like I discussed in the last process, you see that a lot in the procurement space, you're asking for scores for your, let's say you're trying to bid for a government grant. You're asking for your score before they finish the process and before they've released it to everybody. So they get certain exceptions for that. And that's why I can't get into detail, because I would have to tell you all the exceptions and not just one. And it's too detailed to do in just this short session.
Okay. Okay, so Leslie Faye says, okay, I lied. I too was told when scores came out that I was disqualified, but no one gave reasons as to why. And during the scoring process, I was not advised of any missing exhibits. This time I've been advised of deficiencies due to missing exhibits, but the exhibits were all submitted initially. So I think that this goes back to, if you have the proof and the confirmation that you submitted them, then you include that, say I did submit these, and then that falls into the I did it template. And then if you don't have the confirmation, you could say I did it, but there must have been a glitch because I know I did it, but I didn't receive a confirmation from you. So now let me submit it again. I should have typed what I just said. Okay.
That was good. I like that.
Yep. So I'm gonna read the next question and I'm gonna type an answer to Leslie's. Okay, Exhibit N, knowledge and experience of principal officers, 30 points. Okay, this is a two-part. Okay, so the first part says the department has determined that regarding the knowledge and experience of officers, its prior deficiency notice with respect to the Exhibit N did not inform applicants how to demonstrate sufficient experience in the cannabis industry. This notice clarifies that requirement. To satisfy the experience element of Exhibit N, the applicant must demonstrate that at least 50% of the applicant's principal officers listed in Exhibit B can demonstrate one of the following: 12 months of working in the industry, 12 months of owning a business that sells products or services directly to the public, 12 months managing at least 3 employees at a business that sells products directly to the public, or 4 or 24 months working for a business that sells products or services directly to the public. This is what was sent in my email, yet it didn't state that I had a deficiency in this exhibit. So what do we do with this? Ooh.
Okay, this is again where their email is very confusing. It's not you, it's the way they sent the information. The only way to know that you have a deficiency is to look at your scorecard. Your scorecard for Exhibit N, if it doesn't have how many points? Sorry. See if I have it pulled up real quickly. How many points was Exhibit N? I don't have it pulled up anymore. If it doesn't have the full amount of points for Exhibit N, then that's how you know you have a deficiency, because you're missing 3 points or 4 points.
It's 30 points. Yep.
Okay, 30 points. I'm sorry, she put it right up there at the top. I missed it. If you don't get 30 out of 30, then you know you have a deficiency. So the way they did their email was that they just gave you guys a whole word dump of a bunch of instructions, and they didn't tell you these, you need these because you have a deficiency here. You need to reverse engineer using your score sheet what you're missing. I did a good deal of that legwork for you on the Excel sheet, but you need to put in your scores yourself because I don't have everybody's scores. Yes, so they sent you extra info. Yes, they sent you info for exhibits that you have perfect scores for. You can just move on from those. And that's why I said hide those rows in the Excel sheet if they don't relate to you because you have a perfect score. Where we at? No, I'm not asking you. I'm talking out loud, Trisha. Okay. I'm getting to that point too, where I'm just scrolling and talking out. Yep. I wasn't asking you.
My fingers are going, my brain, they're not working together.
Like I think start coming out.
Okay. Next question. Somebody said, "Can you expound on that part, sweetheart?" We don't know who asked what previously, so we need you to retype the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, Yashika. Okay. Exhibit H, response received but deemed insufficient. Same, resulting in a disqualification and reason, response received but deemed insufficient. So is that just extra info they sent? Do I ignore it?
Hold on. Give me a second to pull up the instruction sheet.
Okay.
Exhibit H, security plan, deemed insufficient. Did they give you a score? If they didn't give you a score for Exhibit H, which is the security plan, then you need to ask them for your score, and you need to ask them under what legal authority are you deficient? Exhibits resulting in disqualification. Exhibit H, response received but deemed insufficient. Again, you need to ask them under what. I wouldn't ignore it if I didn't get 30 points because they're saying that it's a disqualification. So no, I would not ignore a disqualification notice. I would say, oh, so this means you didn't get any score points for it because it was deemed disqualified. So in this situation, you need to contact them and find out, is your remedy that you can submit it? Or is just your remedy that can you do a supplemental response? But in this case, it sounds like they didn't score it at all and deemed it insufficient. You need to ask them why. But not just why open-ended, why based on what legal authority is this disqualified? What was the legal standard used to determine that this exhibit is disqualified? Because that's the only way you could start asking even us better questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just extra info.
Okay, so I'll dismiss this because I typed it on.
Did you see the one right above there from Salvador? No, that's one that we need to look up later.
That's the one you need to look up later. Okay, so next one is, why did the supplemental scores include the 2 community engagement points in the overall total? Those points are only supposed to be included in the event an applicant received 250 overall points.
I'm actually not sure why they did that, other than the fact that there's still a lot of things in the air over what a tie score might mean once all the litigation shakes out, or once all the legislation shakes out. A tie score might mean something different if the cutoff score changes.
Mm-hmm.
But you feel free to ask them.
Also, please note, Yashika, you said repeat, I need you to retype the question or what we were talking about at that time, because that was 20 minutes ago. We can't remember back 2 minutes ago. Okay. What was I about to see? Now I forgot what I was about to say. All right, I'll read the next question. It'll probably come back to me in a minute. One additional question: if we want to add more info to make the response more robust, but it was not specifically called out as missing, how should we add in our response?
I'm not sure why you would be, because you got to keep in mind the way I'm thinking. I'm trying to get you guys into my mindset. So the question that you're asking me isn't comporting that well, because I wouldn't be approaching this from that lens. I would be approaching this from, what did they say my points were missing, first and foremost? What exhibit is missing points? And I would go to that exhibit, and if I'm missing points, I would then try to align that with the law, the act itself that they cite to, as well as the instruction sheet. And if I find something missing, I'm only supplementing with that missing information. If I believe they overlooked things, I'm telling them what they overlooked was, and I'm pointing to where in my original exhibit they can find it.
It sounds to me like some of you are, and I've done this myself, where you're like, I submitted this application, and then later you go, oh, I should have added this. Don't worry about that. If they didn't say that there was a problem with it, it's fine just as it is.
If it's in a perfect score exhibit, leave it. But if you're having that question on the fence, in a non-perfect score exhibit, lean towards supplementing. If you're saying, I didn't include this and it is related to this specific citation, or I didn't do this thoroughly enough, supplement and do it thoroughly, more thoroughly than you did the last time.
But only if it needs more points.
Right. Only if you need more points. You're only focused on the exhibits that are missing points. Even if it's missing 1 point, you want every point.
Because we already know that in order to qualify, you have to have a perfect score based on what already came out.
Right. And we don't know yet what the new perfect score might be if they change the cutoff.
Right.
Right.
Application had to be submitted on a flash drive. Flash drives weren't checked before we left. Confirmation doesn't come. Oh, so you went, yeah, that's right, because this was before COVID.
Oh, yeah. So this is your word against their situation.
Yep.
So this is you saying to them, I attest that I did submit these on my flash drive originally.
That's right, because it's a very different process than what happened with IDOA, because they shifted everything because of COVID and everything was electronic.
Feel free to beef it up with a sworn affidavit, just to beef up your file. But this is your word against their situation.
Mm-hmm. You said beef it up with what?
A sworn affidavit.
Sworn affidavit. Okay.
That says, I'm swearing under perjury of law. I am attesting. Now, keep in mind, a sworn affidavit is a real legal instrument that can lead to perjury charges. So, you know, it's not something to do if you didn't really do it. If you really did do it, though, feel free to submit a sworn affidavit saying you did, and ask them right now. Leslie Faye, I need you to ask a lot of these questions to the agency right now. We submitted pre-COVID using USBs. We don't have confirmation sheets. You're saying we're missing things. Can we submit sworn affidavit attesting that we did submit them and resubmit them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the chat, Leslie Faye says, okay. All right.
I'm glad that you clarified that, Leslie Faye, because that is something that I completely forgot. That was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question I meant, why shouldn't we edit our original exhibit? Slightly confused on the best way to approach this. Because they said don't do that. Is a short answer.
You guys, they don't want you guys resubmitting the stuff that you submitted. They want you to submit stuff they say you're missing, and they're not telling you exactly which legal citations you didn't meet. That's your job to reverse engineer which information you're missing. They don't, if you think that you did hand them something, but you missing points to something you handed to them, they don't want you to just submit your exhibit. They want you to tell them in the supplemental response that you did, and tell them where exactly in that, and they even say that, tell us where in your original exhibit you did do this.
Okay. Yashika said she could not open any of the attachments that they sent her.
Contact them.
Yep.
Don't let too many days pass, Yashika.
Okay, so she's saying, so she asked them and she's awaiting their response.
Right. And
I would
go ahead. No, we probably about to say the same thing, which is because you only have such a short window. Yep. If I'm not hearing things within 24, 36 hours, I'm hitting them up. You guys are going to notice me using way more slang at the end of this. Like, people who've been with me know this, you know, but as it gets later, the slang.
Okay, next question. They asked to show proof of full-time employment. Would a letter saying that they are a full-time employee be okay to submit, because they don't say what we need to submit to show proof?
Ask them. because I thought they do put something in there. One, look at those instructions again, but go ahead, Trisha.
I was gonna say, especially considering the time of year it is, you W-2s.
Right. You should have some proof, and I believe they do put it in there, what kind of things you can say to say you have employees. But I think this is a good question to ask them, because I know that a lot of things have been kind of swinging because of COVID in this regard.
And I would say ask them for clarification, because then you can point back to, well, this is what they told me.
Right.
Okay, so somebody said regarding why we shouldn't edit our original exhibit. I think we already covered that one. We repeated the answer. Okay, no problem. Yashika. Okay, I think we're getting to the end. Can you speculate a new perfect score range, please?
No, absolutely not, because I don't sell that type of stuff. I sell reality and truth, and my truth is baited in statutory law and judicial decisions and constitutional law.
Right. Just to be clear, when I give my score sheet, if I have any exhibit that does not have full points awarded, can I supplement the exhibit?
Just wait, where we at? This last one, just to be clear, I'm sorry, I kind of.
It's okay.
Just to be clear, when I get my score sheet, if I have any exhibit that does not have full points awarded, I can supplement it. Yes. Yes. If you get a disqualification notice, though, please follow up with them.
Yep. Okay, so we have the 2 questions that we needed to come back to. That is all we have left.
Yeah, I just need to get to
take a second. So I'm gonna go read through the chat, and I'm just gonna chat with you all for a second.
No, I'm gonna send that. Can you email them tomorrow?
I sure can.
Okay, yeah.
So
we couldn't
okay, whoever anonymous attendee is, for you to get your answer to your question, you need to send me an email, because I can send these to SL and then send you a response. But if I don't know who you are, you won't get your response. So here's I'm about to put my email address in the chat. Send an email to me, anonymous attendee. And then I am going to copy and paste these so that I don't get lost. And SL, you need me to send you the question too?
I did already. I cut and pasted it into my email. Thank you. So I have 2 questions that I need a day and some rest. And I don't want to do it tonight because I want to conserve the rest of my energy for reformatting a few little tweaks to the document. Yep.
Okay, so then let me go look at the chat to see what I missed, if there's anything important.
Sydney, while you're doing that, I'll address a few things that I've been seeing. Sydney says, I hadn't heard this new score thing. Yes, Sydney, girl or boy, because that, or they. What I will say, Sydney, is that right now, there is legislation going on to potentially, all right, cool. I want to, hey, I want to get these things right. They are saying right now in the legislature that they may create another lottery system for a change in the potential cutoff score from having to be a perfect score to maybe something lower in range as one of the remedies because of all of this litigation. And at the same time, cases are moving through court to challenge these laws and these rules and the administrative agency's implementation of these laws and these rules. So I would say it's when you finish with this process, if you are not already engaged in the legislative part of this, go start getting on Google and start looking up some of these advocacy organizations. There are plenty of them out there, and start figuring out some of the work that they're doing around the legislation, because you can't be in this industry without being political.
That's right. That's right.
If you were part of any of them, drop them in the chat. Let people know who you with, who you rep, and invite them to some meetings.
The West Side just came out. Okay.
I almost threw my W's up, but then I realized, like, wait, I'm at work.
Okay, so somebody just asked another question, which is, I'm sorry, questions are submitted to the agency via email, correct? Long day, headache, seeing red, forgive me. It's okay, honey,
Yes.
we're all seeing red, but yes.
Yes, submit them directly to the department, the agency.
And that's why we stay on for a few minutes, just in case any question comes up, you know, that hasn't already been answered, or, you know, you want to make sure you get answered before we get off. And Sydney, I'm in Central Illinois, so, you know, we're representing the whole state. It's not just Chicago. You know, those of us downstate, we got a big issue with everybody, you know, being forgotten, those of us who are south of I-80. So
I got you.
I know you do. Hey, and let me tell you, and SL and I have talked about this, like the work that they do is not just for Chicagoans. You don't just have to come to their office. You can, the University of Illinois is the whole state. So you can get support from them by being a resident, which all of you are, which is why you're applying. So
you see this sign behind me, UIC, first two letters, UI.
that's right.
This is an Illinois school, and these are Illinois resources, and I am here giving those resources because the state has hired me to be here for the entire state of social equity applicants, not just the ones in Chicago. And so I'm very happy to connect with all of you. I hope you use that brief advising form. I hope you apply for legal representation, and I hope you continue to come to the workshops that we're doing.
Yep. And Salvador, you just sent an email saying, will I send you your answer? Yes, but what will help me do it faster is if you send me an email tonight or in the morning, because then I'll be able to find your email address faster than having to go into the CRM and trying to find you. So I'll be able to flag your email so that I can send you your SL's response faster. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you, SL, for being awesome, for giving us your time, for being dedicated enough that we're going to stay until it's done. So yes, all of you are welcome. This is you all are the reason why we're here. We want to support all of you who, you know, you're not the big money people who went out and hired folks, you're doing it yourself. We're here to help even the score and give you the opportunity to be able to compete. Okay, I see cannabisequityil.org is mentioned in the chat box. I saw Scene mentioned in the chat box. Whoever shared Scene, can you share their website? I know you can Google it because I've Googled it before. Oh, so I will be sending out a survey. So please make sure you answer the survey questions.
Please do it so that we can keep getting funding to do this work.
Yep.
Please submit the survey.
And I also I've thought about this. I just haven't done it yet. I'll probably at one point send you all a link to my Google review area, because that'll just be for reviewing my business overall, for you all to be able to say how I helped you in your businesses. But I'll do that at a later time. So anyway, I'm going to send a survey. Make sure you answer that. I'm going to send the links that we shared. So you're going to get the link that SL shared to IDFPR FAQs, the link that she shared to all of her tools. There will be a link to our session next Tuesday, which is our follow-up Q&A. I can't remember what else, but I promise you it will be in the email if there is something else to say. And on that note, I think we are done. I'm ready to go home. Dante said, how much do we owe for this?
You owe us in reviews.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We want the reviews. SL works for University of Illinois. I am a business owner, so I definitely will appreciate your reviews. So So yes, you will get surveys from me. I already created the survey, so I could probably send that out before I go home. So
Trisha,
thank you
be
all.
kind to yourself now. Be kind to yourself.
Girl, I'm still like,
be kind now.
and let me say this. One of the reasons why I did not open my calendar prior to tonight is because I needed for us to start off on a higher footing for anybody who wanted to have a one-on-one with me. So if you're scheduling a one-on-one with me and you haven't done this work, I'm gonna tell you to go back and start over and come back later.
Oh yeah, I recommend that you guys look at these videos because they're helpful.
Absolutely.
Rewind this, look at it again.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And so yes, and the link for this will be sent out as soon as I have it available, and it will be added to our website tomorrow.
I just want to make sure you guys know I'm not presenting next Tuesday. It'll be just all Q&A.
That's yes. And I know that those Q&As can be lengthy, so I'll be taking a break in the middle next time.
See what I'm saying?
Yes, girl, yes. So, all right, you all, have a good night.
All right, good night.
Salvador and whoever was anonymous, don't forget to email me.
All right.
All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.